Let's do it. Poets Theater. This is a stand-up reading of Ben Mazur's A City of Angels at the Grolier Poetry Book Shop, Thursday, November 15th, 2012.
Wait a second, Mark. Is it 5 o'clock yet?
Yep.
1 after. Okay.
All right.
Arriving at night when all the town's asleep, in silence broken only by my thoughts, which none would witness if I were not here, as if before the morning of its birth, unaware of what the dawn will bring, it is as though I never spent my youth among these darkened windows, motionless streets and sidewalks anchored in vast space. Whatever I have missed, it is as if nothing had gone on here or begun, but only waited for me to arrive with all the plans and promises of new plans I meditated in my long exile. The streets are static, yet they seem to move with an unanchored motion through the grooves of time and memory, a wider thought that reassures them they exist in space, and that God's nature grants they are a place where much is predicated to unfold, when in the morning I unleash the thoughts that brought me to return, as if to break the patterns of the time that came before, and sever all connections to the past when time moves forward into a new day. And motion stirs in the awakening town, to find that all is new is a blank slate where history shall properly begin, groping to find its new identity innocently as it looks around, to find that all is moving forward now, and there is nothing that will be the same, except the streets, the sidewalks, and the trees, the houses where this change has taken place, when all emerges from its winter sleep. The very ice that glistens on this branch has no imagination of the life that will begin when the new sun will rise and throw the new time into the full light, such as has been seen at no time since. Deep in the stillness of its prismatic lens, I see the beauty of the chrysalis of all that waits to be a part of things which will comprise the substance of new times. The clouds that move above through the gray mist are like a highway that's laid out between the rooftops and the darkened glass, behind which all the unsuspecting sleep, timelessly in innocence for now. And down this highway my invading thought, brought with me on my patient pilgrimage, is stirring the rooftops, filling them with life, which will become apparent in the dawn, when each in rising will see life has changed and seems to be at a beginning point, from which it can move nowhere but forward, both later than familiarity, and irrevocably not looking back. How I am calmed by everything I see, drifting so slowly through the incipience of all I've come for, giving identity to the imagination that I bring. Only the trees seem to have foretold all, to wait for changes that have long surmised and meditated on while all went on, oblivious to what must come to pass. They have their secrets which they do not tell, of other people in an earlier time, who since have gone in silence to the grave, who have no speech to tell of what went on, of a whole age that lives beneath the ground, who cannot meet to speak beneath the trees. I have left no survivors to recall, who possessed fair beauty or who loved. The trees are stable, and they seem to peer into the darkened windows for a glimpse of any life that stirs, but there is none. The snow is falling, the first of the year, burying the unsuspecting town. Who shall wake to snow and breaking tea, and a new vexing spirit, which am I? I rise up to the simple tower room, which I arranged to have here in advance, and where I lay out a small group of books, emblem of the theories I'll advance, when welcome dark is banished by the dawn, and all these night thoughts start to move along. But now the town sleeps buried under snow, and has no clue of what they soon will know. My only trousers I'll commence to sew. So in the day I'll be presentable, when I go ringing the professor's door, who knew my father but won't recognize the changes that have come over the sun. He knows but that a scholar will arrive sometime this week to ask him for advice. But I will ask him for much more than that. I will persuade him to lay out his soul and all his resources to my ideas, which likely will be greeted with surprise, but should elicit curiosity in the old doctor's perspicacious heart, so long as he's held on to his ideals. Now back to my tower room before dawn steals these cogitations which are promised life. Many times I've stood in these strange streets. How strange it is that history repeats.
Act 1. Act 1, Scene 2. Enter Mary Wells at the window.
Who's there? What are you doing in the street?
Excuse me, I hope I didn't waken you.
But who are you? What are you doing here? I've watched you pacing up and down the street, as if you had no place to go, as if...
I have a place to go, but it is late. I've just arrived in town and didn't want to wake a soul. Besides, it's nice down here. It's very pleasant standing in the street.
You're crazy, man. You have some place to go?
Well, strange that you should ask. That place is here.
What do you mean? I've never seen your face.
Perhaps you have, but in another time.
Another time? Perhaps you mean by day.
I mean an earlier time, another year.
Who are you then? And what are you doing here? Stand in the light and let me see your face.
I used to live here. You may call me John.
Your name is John? You mean you lived right here?
Not here exactly, but quite close to here. Let me explain. I visited this house and think I met you when you were quite young. You're Mary, aren't you?
Yes, that is my name. But how do I know you? How have you been here?
My father and I visited this place. He must have come here on his own. Your father is the president?
He is.
Well, he expects me. He invited me. Your father and my father were close friends. They knew each other from their early years.
You are John Crick.
And you are Mary Wells.
Why didn't you say so? I know who you are. Wait there, I'll let you in.
I'll wait right here.
Hello then, properly. Won't you come in?
Thank you, I shall.
Let me put on the lights. Do you intend to stay? What are your plans? How did you come to be invited here?
It's simple, really. For the past 2 years, I've lived abroad in a small seaside town, 5,000 miles from here, where I had time to think out some extraordinary plans which I decided I would implement. Upon my return here to this tiny town, which is much like a city to my mind,
I fail to understand you. Your return? What are these plans you thought of for so long? And why a city call you this small town? And why this house, invited by my father?
these plans will take a minute to explain, a minute that's a lifetime. Let me say they are no ordinary person's plans, and nothing like the things that go on here. At least did not when I lived here before. But here's where I think I should go on. I've written to your father half as much, at least the part I thought he'd understand and would be sympathetic to. He wrote me back, expressing a desire to assist, and in the smaller matter of some means, to keep me here and to facilitate an atmosphere which would allow my work to flourish, while I might assist him too.
He wants you at the university?
We have discussed it, at least he wrote of it.
You'll teach then, if I understand you, John.
I've come to teach. I think that That is correct. But I must talk it over with your father. He wrote that I would have a place to stay until the question of my plans were solved.
Well, then you're staying here, under this roof.
Yes, I suppose I am. Is that all right? I didn't want to wake your father up, and that's why I was standing in the street, although it is a pleasant place to be this time of night when everyone's asleep. It's just the train came in so very late, I wasn't certain as to what to do.
Well, you shall stay here. I'll make up a bed.
You needn't trouble. I'll sleep anywhere. Perhaps this sofa or the floor would do.
Nonsense. I'll make you up a proper bed. There is no need for you to take the floor. We have a spare room. You'll be cozy there. I'll get some sheets and find a pillow, too.
You're very kind, Mary, now all grown up.
Nonsense again. It is the thing to do.
But why were you not sleeping at this hour?
I might ask you again, what are these plans you spoke of so mysteriously?
I promise that I'll tell you, but answer me.
Why am I up? I was asleep a while, but then I had a dream I can't recall, which stirred and shook me, and I was awake.
What sort of dream? You can't remember it?
I think I found myself in some strange place, where many people seemed to follow me, but then one man I didn't know emerged, and spoke to me as if he knew my thoughts, and offered to assist me to escape and find my way back home. He wanted to show me something that I had never seen, something familiar, but which had escaped my attention. The way back seemed too long, and nothing looked like it had looked before. I wasn't certain I was going home. Then I awoke to find you standing there beneath my window, pacing back and forth, then standing motionless for a long time. I thought that you were staring at a tree.
I was. I looked for quite a while at it.
Why did you so? What is it you saw?
I saw the future and I saw the past. I saw the present separate from these, as if there were no time while people slept.
I've answered you. Now you must answer me.
I'll do so gladly. Mary, have you plans? Does the present make some sense to you? What does the future look like in your thoughts? Is it like yesterday or like today? Is there a picture fully formed of it? Does it have shape, events that are planned out? Or is it like a blank and open page? No words are written on it, still waiting to be filled. Or is it nothing, like a precipice that's guaranteed yet has no character? A formless thing that isn't even real?
I've never thought of it in quite that light. Of darkness, perhaps, judging what you mean. I have some simple chores and some routines, which occupy me one day to the next. So day to day there's little difference, except sometimes some unexpected thing arises and elicits some surprise, or mixes up my daily sense of things. Other than that, it's normal what goes on. But there is pleasure in it, in routine, the bustle and the sunshine of most days.
Precisely what I mean, not good enough. I have imagined something so much more than the stability of normal days. I want to instigate change in this town. I want to test the waters, so to speak. I want to see what imagination could effect. If individuals became inspired to find that new days are just that, new days, almost like birth, the start of a new year, infinites of possibility.
Well, this is interesting, but in this town, I'm afraid you'll find there's little will for change. And just what is it you propose to change?
Why, everything. The past is in the past. And though the past is mixed in memory, and though the day before seems very near, no anchor really holds each new day back from the extent of possibility.
But more concretely, what have you in mind? With what do you propose to fill each day?
With wonderment and with discovery. Briefly, that is the outline of my plan. To find virginity in each new day, a spirit of adventure not restrained, an openness to what's not been before.
Concretely speaking, John, what would that be?
Nothing concrete at all, but something that remains to be discovered.
Well, we'll see. Perhaps there's more in it than what you say.
There is. I think there's going to be a great change, and something very new will fill out new days. But I don't doubt that it will happen slowly, perhaps tomorrow or the day after that.
I wonder what you think this change will be.
It won't be anything that one could say. It will be rather something that we'll see.
And you'll incite this by your being here?
That is my hope. Can you believe in this?
We'll have to see what I'm prepared to believe.
If I am right, it could begin today.
Well, I'll look out to see if there's a change, though I admit I don't know what you mean.
Have some patience for it, some belief. Observe that all is altered and quite new.
That is something I will try to do.
You needn't try, just keep an open mind and see what happens.
This I'll do. Well then, tomorrow is another day, but not like any other we have seen. But we must have some sleep to see it through.
Good night then, sleep. Tomorrow will arise. What hour does your father stir to life?
Quite early. Will we see you in the morning?
I will be up to see my dream come true.
Good night then, John. I'll see you in the morning.
Good night then, Mary. Likewise, I'll see you.
Good night.
Good night. I hope that you sleep well.
I'll wake you if you like when we have tea.
That would be nice, and thank you for the bed.
My pleasure, John. Now go and get some rest.
Good night.
Good night.
Act 2, Scene 1. Morning in the university president's house. President Wells, his wife Lucy, and his daughter Mary, and his son Robert. Wells.
Where is the young man? Is he out of bed?
He arrived quite late. I'll go and rouse him up.
I want to see how much the boy has changed, who was the offspring of my closest friend.
It's many years now since his father died.
I trust I'll lay my eyes on him with pride.
Do you intend for him a teaching post?
If he is fit, it's what I'd wish the most.
Let me present you to our friend John Crick. John, this is my mother, who you've met before.
Good morning. Yes, I remember you.
Warm welcome to our home. Have you slept well?
Indeed, I slept as though the world had ceased.
And John, this is my brother, Robert Wells.
How do you do? I understand you're back.
Quite good to meet you. Yes, I'll stay a while.
And lastly, meet our family's patriarch. Not meet, I should say, for you've met before.
Come here, my boy. Let's have a look at you.
Dear sir, you were my father's greatest joy.
Not so, my lad. But you were just a boy and may not know how well your father loved your mother, departed now so many years. But there is time to catch up on the past. You'll stay a while? I understand you'll teach.
I'd be quite grateful for a teaching post.
It's settled then. Would you begin next week?
With pleasure. I'm quite grateful for the chance.
Tell us your plans then. What have you in mind?
Well, does the college have a theater?
A theater? Yes, of a middling sort. Are the dramatic arts what interest you?
Yes, but not in a conventional sense. I have some strange ideas in this line.
Ideas that are strange? I'm interested. In just what way might theater be strange?
It's not theater exactly, but a sort of theater. I'd like to find a group of young, ambitious, and imaginative folk who had some classic education, but were forward-looking in their view of things and interested in the invention of livelier expression than I've seen on any stage in London or New York.
How do you mean invention? But a sort? Do you think Aristotle is threadbare? That Shakespeare's plays no longer can suffice? Or are you tired of our modern stage, its emphasis on social politics?
It is not easy for me to explain. I think imagination is a thing which barely has been tapped, and yet which lives within each person yearning for release. We do not know ourselves. We think and feel in colored ways, and our expression is a kind of matrix of a larger truth which many feel, but do not know they feel. I am not quite sure myself of what I mean, but feel it deeply when I am alone, And yet I think these feelings aren't my own, but as I say, part of some larger truth.
But how does this apply to theater?
Something which lives in everyone must be the impetus for a new way to see. By this I don't mean simply modernism, nor the extended vision of some saint. I don't think everyone is ready for my dream of a significant theater.
But what do you mean in practicality?
A group of young people with the power to feel the viscerality of common truth, and with the sensitivity to express lucid emotions with immediacy.
And would this theater have any form?
That's it exactly, any form at all.
Robert, what do you think of our young friend?
He sounds a little crazy, I'll admit. I doubt there'd be much interest in this town.
Mary, how do you take all of this?
I think we have a stranger in our midst. But I'll admit I like the way he talks.
It's possible that you could have your way, but I'm not certain what the town will say. Let me think on it. Have you a play in mind?
What has befallen must now fall behind. What isn't written yet must fill the mind.
This young man's patter makes me feel quite young. It's possible his ideas are quite strong.
I suppose that Shakespeare will survive, but John, you're saying that we are alive.
More perhaps than tomorrow than today.
I'll back you in the making of your play.
Act 2, Scene 2, afternoon, the town, the shop, serving lady, John Crick.
Sewing lady.
Sewing lady. Lady.
Mr. Taylor will fix you up, if you're interested in that. What you come to town for? The last fellow we had interested in theater smoked on the church steps.
It's not the theater, I assure you, nor is it propaganda. It's not even a poetry for these times. If you fix me a hat, will you keep this under it? Have you an underwood?
You mean an underwood cut?
I mean no such thing at all. Let's start over.
You begin. I won't tell you what they thought of your father.
I'm not one to be known about the town. My interest is purely personal. Understand me.
Here comes our tailor. What is... What is it you do at nights? I see your light on when I'm passing.
Hours of reading, meditating thoughts. Nothing. Can I tell you a secret?
It's on your head.
This is the first time I've ever felt I made a difference.
What do you mean?
I sense things before they happen.
You are like your father.
Enter the stranger, John Cross.
Fine suits, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
You can't find suits like that in America.
Not often.
Hold my hat. Tell me your name.
I'm John Crick.
And I'm John Cross. Well, we're going to be friends. I want to know what you're about.
I've been about. I haven't seen a suit like this in a while.
Don't tell me exactly where you've been. I'd like to think of you as someone new to town. There's nowhere to go, really.
No place is a very good place to be.
But here there's much resistance to new ways. I'm just an agent for a company myself. I've been to university, but far from here, in the mountains. But I came back.
Why did you come here?
Can I tell you a strange story?
That is why I'm here. But first tell me, what did you see in the mountains?
I saw life. I saw good people living in small houses. I saw snow like fire between trees like hearts, like people who lived there. I saw things from high up, and I saw things from deep inside. I saw smiles under mustaches in sparkling eyes. I tasted good cooking in blackberry pies. I talked with children whose words were white as snow. They colored in with questions. I learned philosophy at university.
Everywhere I've been, it's much the same, but there's distinction in your words. For my part, I have been up in the clouds, or one with chestnuts, branches, reeds of hay, peculiar flowers, pots of hot cement, old fables, landlords, strangers full of talk, and decent silence. Tell me your strange tale.
Since many lives ago, there's been a feud between the Crosses and another clan. I'll not detail the Crosses' differences, but focus only on a single man. This man once loved a girl but didn't know her family were deadly enemies. They married and were happy for a while, until he recognized his grave mistake and sought to rectify the ancient wrongs with diplomatic missives filled with pleas for tolerance, forgoing memory. Then it was discovered that the girl descended from forgotten nobility, which was proven by an ancient ring passed down into her family many years. This was the sign of his death warrant. Afterwards, the girl was crushed with grief, but came to happy marriage in the end, with a fine man who'd been her husband's friend. After she was not heard of again, the strangeness is her husband lost his friend.
Act 2, Scene 3, midnight. The Knitters, Aunt Harriet, Aunt Sylvia, John Crick, and Mary Wells.
Now, the news spreads quickly through this town. No way to duck resistance in this town. Your endeavor will be criticized and possibly protested. Fear the worst.
The truth is that your father was our friend. There is no saying what these things pretend. If you know as we do just how fine you are, so like your father in so many ways. A generation of disputing clans made him their victim, but think not on that. You were well spoken, even as a boy, and had good manners, curiosity. Even then, you never wanted sleep, but read all night, not knowing that we knew. You blanketed the crack beneath your door to keep the light out of the darkened hall.
You had enthusiasm and good taste. We pinned our hopes on you, an 8 years old, who spoke to us as if you were a man. And now you have come back as a full-grown man, the finest young man that we've ever seen. Night drips slow, pearl by pearl, our fates draw at night. What is it that you think?
When you were a boy, you came to us, asking us questions, hanging upon each word. The night dropped pearl by pearl. The moonlit swirl insists upon our fates in increments, dropping into the pot of memory, blank envelopes, darkened promises. Raw silk of words emerge and re-emerge, taken up again and locked in place, or hidden and swallowed in the fabric surge. They blare like ghosts and gestures that are brief, returning into silence where they came. We seemed to mount the ladder of our words, through each step of the night, translucent steps that teetered in the ether, fell into the silence from which they came, the older ghosts, born out of darkness before you came to us. Those voices are a fabric without end, which can't be seen entire, but only glimpsed in flashes woven of the human soul. They are forgotten cities which are built in darkness, expelling memory. A beam of moonlight gathers in a stitch, and then is woven back into the dark. All silence is the voice from which we came, and darkness swallows every word and name. The midnight hours are woven out of words that sink back into memory. The boy is an unborn ancestral tapestry, waiting to be forgotten, to emerge as something else, the word cloth of a man. Tales are fragments of forgotten lives, which are inherited. Words are reborn as new assertions of old characters. under the pressure of new tragedies. The obsolescent voices of the dead compel ambition's slender immediacies. All glimmering hope sinks back from where it came. New voices and new faces bring to life unfinished dreams and wishes of the dead. All is retelling. The boy will become a man, not knowing that he fights another's fight, loves his own father's love, surpassing death. These accents will be with you when I'm gone. In hours of other nights, you'll pass them on. It is insistent as the sound of rain, the play of voices and the words we say. Oh, Harriet, I've dropped another stitch.
Don't listen to her. She's an old bitter witch.
Times 2, stitch, times 4, stitch. They rain like voices muffled through a wall, like conversations in 1,000 rooms. They pierce each word, struggling to be heard, then disappear in silence in the dark.
Tell me something of the clan's disputes. Did they have bearing on my father's death?
They did, John, though I hate to tell you this. It's best that no one know you are a crick.
How did my father come to his demise?
Oh, there is a ritual when two clans meet. The one will have the other hold his hat so that he can remove his overcoat. It's only superstition, but it's been traditionally a sign of ill to come.
To hold his hat? Know anyone named Cross?
How did you come upon the name of Cross? That was the clan that did your father in. I wish that you had never heard that name. A man like you should be well out of it.
I met a man named Cross this afternoon. He spoke with me, and we became good friends.
This is a sign of trouble. Cross, a friend?
But he was gentler than anyone I've known, and I can think no ill of him.
Still, this is strangeness to our ancient ears. Did he solicit any of your plans?
I told him frankly what I am about, and for his part he told me a strange tale filled with vendettas and unhappiness, from which he seemed to stand 10 miles apart, lamenting all the blood that had been shed. There is no harm could ever come from him.
And yet his name is Cross. Be careful, John. You cannot know what ill can come of this.
The lowers watch one another with smiling, tolerant eyes.
Lovers.
The lovers.
A Cross once took a room next to a crick in order to hound him with his wailing voice for weeks at every hour through the walls. There is no place in Scotland or in Wales a crick can be protected from a cross, nor knotted in the testing of the wills. The crosses have thrown cricks into deep wells and bashed their brains. They have inflicted burns. Many a crick was nailed upon a cross. Crick's skulls are cracked, their bodies stabbed in barns. The cunning crosses harbor many wiles. When a crick looks into a cross's eyes, he sees the past, he feels its injuries, remembering many centuries of loss. These bitter enemies comprise 2 parts of something wholly deadly. Ancient hearts are sundered and make restless by their wounds. No crick nor cross who lives escapes these bonds.
What is the source of these age-old disputes?
It's said that there was an ancient argument between these clans as to which clan should rule these regions, which clan rightfully were royal. There's dispute as to which lineage descended truly since the oldest age. Some say it is the crosses who were pure, but the old documents bestow that honor upon the cricks, being the older clan down to the present. You are a noble man.
Harriet, it's time we went to bed and left these children to their own affairs. Mary and John, enjoy the quiet hours in which ladies of our age must leave to youth.
Children, good night. Coming, Sylvia? Let's save our talk up to the afternoon.
Mary, you've been quiet all this time.
Harriet and Sylvia impart much wisdom. I have a sympathetic heart and feel awakened by your presence here.
You are more beautiful than any girl I've seen in all my extended travels.
That is a strange thing to suddenly hear. How came such sentiments into your mind? Or shall I take your words as theater?
I speak more plainly than I have before, since coming here to realize my dream. Though you have sat and spoken not a word, your silences have scarcely gone unheard.
You know then, since the night you have arrived, I've been unsettled by the things you've said.
I'm flattered you set any store by those.
Don't be flattered. Come stand over here, and look outside the window on the street, where I first saw you pacing back and forth, and thought a while about who you might be.
The street from this view still looks beautiful.
As beautiful as I?
Less beautiful.
Then kiss me, John. It's what I want from you.
But if I kiss you, then you might be mine.
And do you think that would be terrible?
There is no thing that would be less terrible.
You must be quiet. Everyone's asleep.
You understand how passionately deep are my emotions.
Yes, I understand.
Then let me have your lips. Give me your hand.
Words are nothing to the way I feel. I've heard your words, but something deeper than the sound of them attracts me to you. No, not even attracts, as funny as it sounds. The things I feel all flower out of silence, yet die not in the darkness like my aunt's. Richer than sounds in silence do they grow, and multiply like any peopled world. And yet the difference is, they aren't no world, but more like something which produce a world. Something which was there before the world, to which the hearkening world at last returns. There I feel jarring streetcars, a dim vase of unnoticed emotions, sounds of flowers, glances across shelves, streets that are passages, and secrets folded neatly in the day. I hear the patter of 1,000 rooms, all turning night into the dawn, but they are but ghosts of something more refined, ineffable silence that informs the mind. I feel it in the words you do not say, like a great beacon lighting up my heart. I don't know where these things begin or end, but in your silence know you are my friend. I feel that in beginnings are their end.
You are a flower and a shining light which breaks the dark, encompassing the night. To you I also feel that I return as to some initial impulse for which I yearn. You're right, the silence speaks of greater things, of which not poetry but loving sings. It is something which always was before, the opening or closing of a door. It is the unwitnessed single light that shines throughout the darkness which was silence once, a silence in which breathes all memory, dimly disguised, the source of all we see, the blatant origins of what we are, the living soul beneath the worldly scar. So I would gladly pass long winter nights, basking in the silence of such sights excluded from the world, in ecstasies of apprehending what the Maker sees, in hearing the silence of the Maker's sighs. Tell me, next, why did you come here?
My people were here. I've been here all along.
What keeps you at this place?
The sound of the bells is like no other. The edge of the city's walls and still a strong remembrance of things past. I don't know. I was a little girl here. My grandfather used to poke me with great cigars. I saw their faces when I picked apart flowers.
You must have liked the smell of books. I know. The blood of your people oozes through these rocks. And what is such an education for?
Do witches only on the dark wind ride, or does the calendar itself ember and thrive in the vastness of those unlistenable particulars that keep us mostly ourselves in a vast chapel, a litany of recollections, while the bride of winter curtails the obvious, still stirrings that impregnate the winter light?
You tell me. I would like to know.
Sun opens the day, you open the dream. The world opens, time opens, and memory. You open the light, you open the window. The world is opened to the little room. Outside the rocks are open to the shadow. The cellars open to the cellar door. The room is open to the library. The library is open to the book. The book is open to the seasoned page where the world lives without reason age. Those leaves, that wind, that branch, that shower, under which day looks like an encyclopedia, roaming the flowers in their shadows of whispers and lips, like pieces of paper at night, too, almost as if watching from the bushes. No, but out the window in the air, high up above everything where no one is watching, It watches that thing you are thinking of apart, that understands one loving the familiarity of what are only symbols, shades, and shadows, of once what was a town and what still is.
And yet time flickers.
In time, the fullness of time flickers.
All falls in place.
Then dirt and wind are one under my boot.
And yet we are here. The shadows stop for us, or do they sweep us where they're going to?
This moment frozen in eternity is caught up on all sides by history, the unknown dark direction of the wind, in which I've always found a kind of solace.
Much that is known rehearses an old debt to lineages and alliances lurking in shadows. The spoken words too bright to lay the sleeping grievances, threatening to undermine our hopefulness.
Whatever's to come, nothing will erase what I have felt and understood with you. The very fact that we have felt these things has its own place, whatever is to come. I've confidence that this will see us through.
Shall we then call this moment our first home?
Yes, let it be that. Our hearts will keep it true.
Let it be done, whatever is left to do.
Act 3, Scene 1. 1 month later, a barn outside of town. Tom Cross and Sam Cross drinking.
Where's my drink? Jesus Christ. You got to have the cross. That's it. You don't want to go overboard with non-alcohol.
Tom.
What movie did you say you want to go to tonight? I want to stay in and kill Briggs. I mean Cross. I mean Crick. I'm Cross. Yes. Cross. Specifically, what kills the critics is a surfeit of success. It is not being looked at. It is looking over. I must kill the Cross. Crick! There I go again. This is not the half, not the double, not the half. No language, no speak. To kill a Cross or Crick, for a cross, and another cross before you look. It is no trick of a cross to kill a Rick.
Yes, but how do you propose to kill him? Would it be a simple way?
Shall I give you a sample?
Do you be cross?
I'll show you no punctuation. I'm not taking liberties, no libertines for that matter.
A cross, a crick. No, I see nothing in it.
Damned if I'd be.
What do you see?
I see shut up. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? They've got one newspaper, one magazine of any value, a literary magazine, and that is where this play will receive a favorable review. And it will be trusted and admired by intellectuals. And we've got one shit crick up our ass, the whole lot of them.
I see where this is going.
You don't understand the milieu. They have gatherings of the students in the libraries where this sort of thing is read and discussed. But that's not where things really are happening, no. These are foolish, there are foolish people in high positions of power who have influence over popular opinion. It is a problem for literary people. But you and I don't care for that. Our eyes are in a sharper focus.
Tell me the story again of the Crick girl and the to-be bride of the Crick.
'Twas on a moonlight avenue that I met that dreaded parvenu, like paint as if a painter paint, moonlight and flowers and herbs and I waited for the hours, I weighed the hours and I waned, then between the trees she appeared. But in front of the tree I was looking behind. At first I was out of breath from the being frightened. I say this appear. I say this appears. Excuse me, what was I saying? Delightful song. The evening hammered at me like the city astride the ocean, like in south of Spain. I can't forgive the tide of time that hires the midnight hour, soar or spire, soar or sour, till in the end of time, to time come. All adjourns, immured, commonwealth, and out wallow night poppycock by the lamb's brogade. So much for meaning. They say he has sold out because he's timed the opening with advance notice in the little reggae paper where poets publish poems and undergrads spout off how art makes for better lives. But we know that it doesn't. You and I know that.
Yes, but I like hearing it because it makes me know that I'm here.
That is neither here nor there.
It is here, but it will be there.
It is not just the smell of the leather armchairs that gag me, or the diplomas of the years on the walls, nor the flowers that fill every chair, green plush-colored autumn. Times will be lives. What lives in me lives in no man. They'll amplify the maps and views of 1,000 little people who fall on the streets like acorns in the autumn. Now is the time to sow the summer seed. Vista proper, tomata their review. And I'll meet him in a room with people. I'll know this John Rick in another world.
Act 3, Scene 2. 2 nights later, the President's house. Mary.
Now since my brother's death, all languishes. My father's sick, all stagnates in the town. A foolish ancient feud extinguishes the innocent and tears the future down. 2 families have lost their noblest sons, and all—
John, attend my words. Consideration of mortality induces with great force veracity. When I am gone, the university will need a president. John, you be this. Comfort my heart, and say it will be thus.
All voices in me are unanimous. The future is present now. I will be this.
Life is a circle. So much that circular is now complete. Walk in my shoes so I can rest my feet. But there is more I would impart to you. The present must inform the future view. Circles within circles tie us to the past. What you'll now learn will make you understand that you are free to take my daughter's hand. Let me explain. Your father in his youth loved a young lady. She became my wife by her own choosing. Your father was my friend, so much so our friendship did not end. Your father was of great nobility, which I am certain that you didn't know. Nobility possessing sovereign rights which were usurped unrightfully by those dark blue-blood clansmen bearing the name of Cross, who gradually, it came to be revealed, were impostors, their lineage repealed, crick to crick for centuries. This royal ring's said to have disappeared. Its absence is not the only thing that's weird. Your father kept his silence on these matters, eccentricities of crosses, hatters, and the long chronicles of feuding debtors, fearing before you reached a certain age it were folly, and would not be sage for you to know the burden that you bear, nor that the land waits for the honest care of he who is by blood its rightful king. A moment to let these shocking words sink in. I hope I've made myself perfectly clear.
These words you said shook me to the core, and deeper penetrating all I felt of who I am and why I have come here. If they are true, there's much for me to do, not merely to succeed as president, but not only to take your daughter for my wife, but to discover what these things have meant in intuitions which have planned my life. which now I see is most circular indeed.
Your father died fighting. The cross has ended him. They've ended my own son, and ended me. To all appearances I shall not live, so weary have I grown from all of this. But I yet have advices to impart. The feuds must end. There must be a new start, as you foresaw in dreams of new art. The circle must come round. Silence must drown the angry, tortured voices in the town. All must return to as it must have been in the old days when Crick was sovereign, before the feuds, the falseness of the cross. I know you understand, and will do right. But understand, my son, you are a king.
Wait here, John. There's something I must say. Look in my hand and tell me what you see.
I see a piece of jewelry of strange hue.
I've kept this in secret now for many years. This is that ancient ring a Wells received as loving token from her sovereign Crick. What passed to me, I now pass back to you, completing the circle to the very last. What's more, the Wells are true nobility, allied to the Cricks for centuries, and now allied again, I hope you see.
Mary, you're asking me to marry you.
Be quiet, John, and tell me that I'll do.
Mary, you'll more than do. Will you be mine?
It was inevitable all this time. I'll be fulfilled if I would be your queen.
This is the finest hour I've ever seen. Now let the old curse end. Let's forward fare, impart to the land its overdue of care. The crosses and the Cricks shall fight no more. Let all be righted in the ancient city.
Artistic activity in the town is godlike. Newspapers broadcasting news of impending war. The moment flowers, talk in rooms elevates the individual. Emotion flowers as the crest of time's essence, dissolving calendar, on something like a star in fog, emerging beneath the ticking of your talk. What I have seen I never could believe. The flowering of our residential art, broken in midstream by the darkest arts of death. My brother killed defending my lover against the vilest criminals. He overcame skepticism to devote him to the catechism of a new Europe buried in the hills. Our news is broadcast through the local papers, into the villages and twice to London. Elephants roar on wax cylinders. My unborn son draws blanks of Africa on what is seen by some as moral indifference. Our fates fly through the skies. The guns repeat last year's electrotype into the annals of our friendships, where the ghost wind rides. The different windows and the multiple gardens throughout our region. Tongues flower in graves outside resistance. The hills flower with souls. The least occurrence endeavors permanence, when there is no assertion of evil in the veritable faith of sense. Our legend follows, minute particulars, of friendship and sense, that form without us a city, blossoming in the sacrifice of war. A cup of coffee, the wallpaper up the window seat, the latest publications, hidden signs of royalty. John Cross shot in a mistaken struggle with his brother. The killers captured on the run for Ireland and without question going to be hung. My brother's dead, who had such good in him. He saved John's life while sacrificing his. Robert and John Cross cut down in their youth. Our hopes for a new and worthwhile theater have fled into our grief. Life is cut down by the exasperated tensions of the world. Say this for the new drama. It brought you fully to the edge of sense, where evils are met with indifference, and love has power to launch a new surprise. Intelligence, communicated by the eyes, ignites the fire of activity, and the calm ticking of the calendar, released into the night's ethereal and blessing cognizance. The world is one. I am that world. Now ends. Begins the promises, collecting sense.
The end. ladies and gentlemen, thank you to the Grolier Poetry Book Shop, one of the greatest places in the world. Proved again tonight. There's no business like Poe business, and let me remind you that this gentleman Zach Boss has a bigger reading going on at the First Church of Cambridge, 11 Garden Street.
That's right.
And let me remind you to support the Grolier Book Shop. I have one way of doing it. I put myself on the Grolier Poetry Book of the Month plan. I come in here and buy a book every month. And this one is here, the play itself, one of the most beautiful chapbooks I've ever seen. But anyway, go forth and listen.